In this video, I'm going to explain why it's fantastic to recognize repeating patterns when you're reading the music, but not always the best for actually playing and coordinating your fingers. My name is Josh Gu, and I'm taking my years of experience learning, teaching, and performing, and sharing all of my best clarinet and music tips so you can get more out of your practice, and most importantly, have fun. You can learn more about all of my many resources at QuickStartClarinet.com, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the bell to get notified when I post new videos. Reading music, just like reading any language, is all about pattern recognition and noticing groupings of things and grouping them together in your brain to give them more meaning and more sort of context to what's going on. However, when it comes to playing the clarinet, that's a little different. Playing the clarinet is not reading a language. Playing the clarinet is fine motor movement and fine muscle coordination. So the way we go about those things is a little different, and sometimes if we overlap those, we can run into issues. Looking at if we overlap fine muscle coordination into the reading side of things, that's where we get really overwhelmed, and we look at a line of 16th notes, like maybe these three measures from the Rose 40 Studies #1, and we see, oh my gosh, there's all of these notes. I have to play a B, G, A flat, G, A flat, G, and there's just all of these notes, and you're trying to read every single individual note, and it becomes extremely overwhelming. However, if we start grouping that together and we see, okay, it starts on B, and then we alternate G to A flat, we have another B, then it alternates D to E, then we have this repeating pattern of F, C sharp, D, E, F, C sharp, D, E, and we can start to put those together into groupings that make sense in our mind. It suddenly becomes much, much easier to read, and really this whole line becomes a B, alternate between G and A flat, a B, alternate between D and E. F, C sharp, D, E, that happens 3 times. Then we have one beat of kind of unique notes and a unique pattern of notes, and then a whole measure of G, D, B, A, G, D, B, A. So really there's 4 alternating patterns, a couple little things here and there, and that's it, rather than 16 different notes in every single measure that we really have to comprehend. So hopefully that makes sense how reading in groupings can make the reading of the music much less intimidating and much less daunting. However, there's another side of that that I think people often fall into a trap on, and that's starting to play thinking of those patterns and play letting those fingers execute those patterns on autopilot. I think most people can look at this and once you're a little bit experienced with reading music and playing, you can start to recognize those patterns. But I don't think a lot of people think about the issue of actually playing patterns on the clarinet. So let me demonstrate what I mean by this. Is we take these 3 measures and we start to think, okay, B, alternate between G and A flat. Another B, alternate between D and E. And we end up doing something like this. And it just starts to get really mushy. We hit that 4th beat of the 2nd measure, and it's just slam on the brakes, everything falls apart because suddenly we aren't doing the pattern. And even within the patterns, the rhythm is really undefined, the playing's really fuzzy and really mushy. Not to mention that I'm on a backup clarinet that I'm breaking in, so that adds extra mushiness to it for me personally. But you can see how playing in those patterns doesn't work. And the reason why it doesn't work is because our fingers aren't smart enough to execute a pattern like that. What happens is we see, okay, B, then alternate G and A flat. If we send those instructions to our fingers, then it's like, okay, I'll play a B and alternate G and A flat. And you'll get any kind of pattern to that, any kind of rhythm to it, and it'll just sort of wiggle back and forth between G and A flat. And it won't be precisely in time, you won't do the precise number of repetitions, and you won't know when you're supposed to go on from it. So reading the patterns is fantastic and absolutely something you should do and something you should recognize, so then you can start looking ahead and read faster. However, when it comes to actually playing and as you're performing it, I highly, highly recommend still really digging into the rhythm and still leaning into the rhythm so that you're actually deliberately and intentionally playing every single note rather than just letting the fingers try to go on autopilot playing that pattern. Just to elaborate a little bit further and make it really clear what I mean, as I'm looking at the music, I visually see it and I comprehend it as a chunk of B alternating G and A flat. But then the information that I'm sending to my fingers is, I know that I'm alternating between these notes and I know what the pattern is because I've read it, but I want you to play 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a, and actually play exactly what's correct. And that's how you can get it to come out really clean and really in control, but not be overwhelmed by all of the notes like this. And as a bonus, by keeping the individual notes really deliberate in the clarinet playing, that also gives me a little more freedom and flexibility to shape the line and do something interesting with it as well. Also, as a bonus to the reading side of things and reading it in chunks, is I just memorized those 3 measures like 2 minutes before I started doing this video, and I was able to know all of the notes and play it all accurately on my first try because I knew it in chunks. So I was only memorizing like those 4 rhythmic grouping or 4 note grouping chunks, and it was easy to get it to stick in there. So the information was there in a easy to comprehend chunk. The instructions to the fingers were going out in a very clean, very precise way so that I wasn't just mushing through it. And that's how you read in chunks and read in groupings, and then execute with precise, clean, clear rhythm and good rhythmic grouping. So I hope this idea is helpful. I definitely am curious to see how this goes in your playing. I don't think I've really heard anybody talk about this before. Definitely reading in chunks and groupings, everybody talks about that, but playing a little bit more deliberately I think might be interesting to explore and try, and I'm really curious to hear how that goes for you in your playing. So let me know in the comments. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you in another one. And last but not least, a huge heartfelt thank you to the Dennersons. This is like the QuickStart Clarinet family who supports the channel and helps to make everything that I do possible. If you would like to support the channel and get some awesome rewards in return where we can work one-on-one over video and you can have my full support moving forward on your clarinet journey, then go to quickstartclarinet.com/supporter.